Eddie Jones is all out. And here's the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's low of 1976.
Asmussen, Lucas, Baffert, Wilkes, West, and Briley. 15 days out and the dream is alive for the connections of the 20-plus Kentucky Derby hopefuls. Storylines abound. It's time to find your Derby horse on the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show presented by Twin Spires. And it is a beautiful morning here in Louisville. Temperature in the upper 60s. Main track is fast. And let's take a look at the headlines leading into our first morning workouts program. Led by the Arkansas Derby winner Sandman and the Bluegrass winner Burnham Square, 11 Kentucky Derby horses are currently on the grounds with many more to arrive. Undefeated Kentucky Oaks favorite Good Cheer fired a bullet workout yesterday for trainer Brad Cox. Santa Anita Derby winner and likely Kentucky Derby favorite Journalism to depart California on Tuesday for trainer Michael McCarthy. And if he gets in, Flavion Pratt is to ride Kentucky Derby hopeful Baeza, who right now is on the outside looking in. That is Maida's little brother. Manny Franco has been named to ride East Avenue. Baeza is a half to that 2023 Kentucky Derby winner. Joe Christofek and Tony Kalo, it is time for the Kentucky Derby Morning Workout Show, and we could not be happier to be here, Tony, from the $2,500 yearling chunk of gold to the $1.2 million two-year-old in training purchase Sandman and everyone in between. Brand new cast of characters, obviously, for this year's Derby.
We can't wait. I can't wait. It's the most anticipated race each and every year. Every owner, trainer, and jockey wants to win this race. Every fan, whether they're grizzled veterans like us or just newbies, this is a race that nobody wants to miss. We're going to give you all the info for the next 15 days so you can dazzle your friends and family with all the pertinent information on all the top contenders.
Another individual that wants to win, but at the pari-mutuel windows,
yes,
is up on the fourth floor. That's Kevin Kilroy. And Kevin, we need your help. We got all the information. We got the past performances. It's time for the trainers to put the finishing touches on their horses with the workouts the next several days and couple of weeks.
Yeah, good morning, Joe, Tony. I'm up here on the fourth floor, Millionaires Row. This is that perfect view for the workouts. I've got the 360 view of the track, can see every step that the horses take. Derby day, you'll find the rich and famous up here, but every day we've got the clockers led by John Nichols watching the workouts. We've got various trainers up here watching their horses. It's a really privileged view. Happy to be here, of course, and I'll provide one piece of the handicapping puzzle, but we also have Caitlin Free on the backside. She's going to be giving it to you from the horseman's mouth. She'll have interviews with various trainers, various people behind the scenes. Caitlin, what's shaking by the Lucas Gap on the backside?
Well, there's not much going on right now, Kevin. We've had a few of the Kentucky Derby potential starters as well as those potential Oak starters that have already hit the track. But of course, those designated training hours at 7:15 through 7:30, that is going to start today. So that is reserved specifically for those Oaks and Derby contenders. You can see them in their highlighter yellow as well as their light pink saddle towels. Those were delivered yesterday. We've already seen Coal Battle and Final Gambit out here on the track. So excited to see a few more of those hit the track. But as you said, it is a beautiful morning. Probably one of the best we've seen out here so far. And Tony, I don't know. I really feel like Kevin was kind of insinuating that maybe me and him are the Wonder Twins instead of me and you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know. What's he thinking? We got
That's
Wonder
how
Twins.
you activate right there, baby. Yeah, we've got a lot going on here on the show. As mentioned, looking forward to the designated training hours. Way back in September of last year, the two-year-old started to earn points for Kentucky Derby 151. That all concluded with the Lexington last Saturday at Keeneland, and here is the leaderboard as it stands right now. And I notice on this first page, a lot of horses that like to come from off the pace. Burnham Square, Sandman, Tistastic, Sovereignty, Final Gambit, and Chunk of Gold, all horses that like to rally from pretty far out of it as we turn to the second page, 11 through 20, Tony.
Might not be a bad thing this year to be a deep closer. The race seems to have a much anticipated amount of pace. On this page, Grande's a rapidly improving horse that was against the flow in the Wood Memorial. Luxor Cafe really impressed me with his turn of foot in his most recent win in Japan.
He comes in through the Japan Road. We also have Admire Daytona coming in from the Euro UAE Road. Here are the horses on the outside looking in, including Baeza. Now, this is a horse that is a half-brother to Mage and also a half-brother to Dornoch. Mage winning the 2023 Kentucky Derby, Dornoch winning the Belmont Stakes last year. Pretty strong family, Tony.
Pretty awesome pedigree, no doubt about it. Runner-up in the Santa Anita Derby, rapidly improving. It'd be a shame if he does not make the race. Owen Almighty drawing in might hinder his chances to get in. We're going to check out a workout from Baeza earlier in the week.
Let's take a look at it right here, Tony. He is solo. This is at Santa Anita. It's a half mile. It's a leisurely workout. The finishing touches are going to be put on next weekend, a week out, but the real important workouts are going to be this weekend, and we're here right here on the Workout Show to bring them to you.
This is his first workout since his runner-up effort in the Santa Anita Derby. As Joe mentioned, it's just a maintenance move. It's a nice and easy breeze. Let him stretch his legs, let him be well within himself. You see him well off the rail. That's not any concern whatsoever. He's doing it very nicely. Rapidly improving horse. The blinkers went on in his second career start, and that's when he started to step up his game. Interestingly enough, Joe, this one debuted on the turf, and now is racing on dirt, which seems to make a lot more sense. So it was kind of an odd placing, at least from my standpoint, debuting on the turf.
You see a nice gallop out from Baeza. We've got other Southern California horses, Tony. And in case you haven't heard, Bob Baffert is back, and he's back with a trio, including the winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Citizen Bull.
Yes, he is the 2-year-old champion. He disappointed in the Santa Anita Derby. That was his first start since early February. The knock on Citizen Bull is when he has been victorious, he has had everything go his own way. He did not have things go his way in the Santa Anita Derby, and it was his worst race to date.
Take a look at a workout from April the 13th at Santa Anita. 47 and 3 for 4 furlongs out in a minute and 1. And this is one of the horses that is likely go to the lead. You've got Martin Garcia in the saddle once again. Bob Baffert, his resume in the Derby speaks for itself, Tony. He's won it 6 times, tied with Ben Jones for the most all time.
An incredible record from Bob, no question about it. You know, Citizen Bull, I think his best chance to succeed on the first Saturday in May would be to try to sit a stalking trip. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go to the lead and deal with others. There is plenty of speed lined up. We shall see. He has not shown that dimension yet in his afternoon career. He's showing it a little bit here in the morning, very patiently handled outside of a rival, well within himself, and coming home pretty strongly.
From Southern California to Florida and to Penn Street, the winner of the Florida Derby last out. Lightly raced, just 3 starts, but we've seen Mage and before him, a Triple Crown winner in Justify have success with just 3 wins under their belt and win the Kentucky Derby.
Seems to be a trend of recent years. It's not like yesteryear where you had these horses with long campaigns as a 2-year-old and even lengthy campaigns as 3-year-olds. The modern day of training with these 3-year-olds is to get them lightly raced, keep a fresh way of going about it for the first Saturday in May, and here he comes with a recent workout. Now, he is outside of Rapture. Rapture is a very talented horse in his own right. Didn't really run too well in his most recent start. They're going to go 48 2/5. To Penn Street, you know, the one thing I like about him is he seems to be a very versatile individual, and he seems to be that stalking type of horse, and that might come into play here because he could get first run on all of the deep closers.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, and I love the way that Brad Cox has campaigned this son of Into Mischief. 7 furlongs on debut at Gulfstream, mile and a 16th, runner-up in the Holy Bull, and then winning the Florida Derby. And this is a horse that looks like he's got the stamina to get the job done. He gets Luis Saez, a very strong rider, aboard. You get first run. Luis Saez has the lead in the stretch. He's tough to get past.
Indeed. He's a very intriguing individual, very inexperienced. Only his 4th career start will be in the Kentucky Derby. Kind of reminiscent to his stablemate who had a lot of hype last year, Just a Touch. We'll see how he handles. the big horse, the big field, and the big crowd.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He seems to be doing everything right at this stage, early stage of his career, that is to Pan Street. Now, I mentioned earlier there are 11 horses currently on the grounds for the Kentucky Derby. That means a little bit more than half of them yet to arrive. We've got 25 on the list, 5 on the outside looking in. 20 will enter the Kentucky Derby starting gate. And for an update on who's coming here when, let's send it back down to Caitlin Free on the backstretch with a special guest. Caitlin?
Well, thank you, Joe. I am joined here by a very special guest indeed. It is a man that wears many hats around here, to say the least. He doesn't have one on today. It is our own Kevin Kirstein. Kevin, you and Darren Rogers take care of all things media here at Churchill Downs. When does that really hardcore preparation start to get everything ready for everyone and ready for that public consumption when it comes to everything Derby season?
Well, Caitlin, no hat this morning, but I wanted to make sure I matched your pink, so we're all set. Really, the day after Derby, we're always talking Derby here at Churchill Downs, and the lead up to the road to the Kentucky Derby. When that starts in September, that's really when Derby season kicks into high gear. But I would say probably the first of the year is when really that business starts to get serious, because that's when you're starting to see the real Derby contenders come out and start to see who the main players of this class are.
Well, Joe mentioned it, about half of the horses that are going to run in this year's Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks are on the grounds. We are missing a couple of the key contenders, including those Bob Baffert runners and journalism. Everyone has to be here by next Saturday and on the ground. So with those horses arriving maybe early next week, when can we maybe expect to see them out on the track for the first time?
I think a lot of people are really interested to see journalism. He's the Kentucky Derby favorite. He's at Santa Anita right now. He'll ship out here on Tuesday, and it's weird with the shipping times because he'll ship into Indianapolis and then van down here to Churchill Downs. I would expect to see him Wednesday on the track. And then those trio of Bob Baffert contenders will get here on Thursday. Probably we'll see them on Friday. A couple other horses like Chunk of Gold, who's at Turfway, we'll see him on Friday. To Pan Street, we're going to see more recently, as we just saw on that work. He's down there working this morning at Payson Park. We'll get on a van tomorrow morning, and we'll see him probably on the track on Sunday for Brad Cox. Grande went from Belmont to Keeneland. He'll have one work at Keeneland, then he'll show up here at Churchill Downs. So really, this field is converging here at Churchill Downs. More than half the field is here right now. We'll see a lot of these works tomorrow and start to see the serious preparations over the next couple of days.
You really got your frequent flyer miles in during the road to the Kentucky Derby season, traveling around to a lot of the prep races. Of the horses you hadn't seen, whether it be in the mornings or in a race format, who are you most looking forward to seeing that has yet to arrive?
I'm really looking forward to see both journalism and to Pan Street. Journalism, because I haven't seen him in the flesh in person. He just looks like his sire, Curlin. I can't wait to see him in person after winning that Santa Anita Derby. And then to Pan Street, when winning the Florida Derby, I always like to look for the horses if they ran their Kentucky Derby in their final prep race, or maybe they grew mentally and physically out of that prep race. To Pan Street was very impressive when I saw him in March down at Payson Park. He obviously was impressive in the Florida Derby, so we'll have to see how he came out of that race and how he comes here to Churchill Downs.
All right, thank you so much, Kevin. Just happy to have you out here with us. Can't think of a better interview to kick off this work show and set the table.
Happy Derby. Tony looks like he's thriving in these early morning hours.
Tony is absolutely thriving in these morning hours, and like KK said, the hype is high on some of these horses, and I would probably agree, guys. The journalism is the one that I'm looking forward to seeing most.
Come on, guys. Tony Kalo's thriving in life in general. We can't not be thriving during Kentucky Derby season, and this is just the first of what, a dozen shows, 15 shows that we're doing. Let's take a look at some information on Matticat Road,
All
Tony.
right.
He's broken his maiden, and that's it so far.
Yeah.
He's on, what, a 3-race losing streak coming into this, most recently 4th in the Florida Derby, and he's been traveling around Santa Anita, Oaklawn, and most recently at Gulfstream.
He really has. He likes to be forwardly positioned. He started his career without blinkers, 3 races in a row with blinkers. Recently, they took him off for the Florida Derby. Mike Smith put him on the engine. He backpedaled a bit. I don't know what to make of him. He's going to have to really step his game up. He's eligible for an allowance N2L.
All 3 Baffert horses want to be forward. At least on paper. Rodriguez went gate to wire in New York in the Wood last out. We talked about Citizen Bull. Here's Matticat Road. He's been on the lead in each of his last 2 starts, including going very fast in the Rebel on the lead 2 back.
Something will have to give when the starting gate opens up and Baffert has 3 horses, all speed types. Who knows what's going to happen.
This is a nice work.
It is a very nice work, 47 seconds. Bob's horses always work good.
True.
They work fast, they work strong. They're all good-looking, big, strong individuals. Look at them, strong off the
way
turn.
He's moving. Yeah, Madigan Road looks good here. He's going to have to bounce back. He's going to have to get better. He's going to have to prove that he can get 1.25 miles like all these horses are going to need to do. And like you said, the strategy is going to be interesting. I think that strategy will be predicated on the post position draw.
I was exactly just going to say that. Post position will be so imperative. And we'll see how that plays out. That's very anticipated. Can't wait for that day. Opening night.
Opening night draw, yes, at 7:15 Eastern time. We'll be talking more about that. Baffert is often the king of California, but this year it's Michael McCarthy with this guy, Journalism, who has been sensational in recent starts, including overcoming a troubled trip last out in the Santa Anita Derby to get the job done over Baeza.
He has been sensational. Third in his debut, going 6 furlongs. He is undefeated around 2 turns. After his debut run, I had a friend in California text me and said, here's your Kentucky Derby winner in 2025. His name is Journalism. I had texted him earlier in the summer and said, here's your 2025 Derby winner, East Avenue, after he debuted at Ellis Park. So we were kind of a little bit rivalry there.
Let's take a look at the Santa Anita Derby, Tony. And there's Journalism. He got shuffled back badly in a bunched field on the far turn, and now you're going to see him come outside. Citizen Bull on the lead. Baeza running second, runs a very good race. He's going to take the lead here. Journalism really had no business winning this race based on what happened earlier on in the event.
You know, for a 5-horse field, you could not have gotten any more trouble than Journalism did on the 5th of April. He drew the rail. Post position will be very important for him. Another question mark with Journalism is just the short fields that he's facing. With the exception of one race, all of his races have only had 4 other rivals to deal with.
Umberto Rispoli, the regular rider and the pilot for the Kentucky Derby aboard Journalism. And Michael McCarthy has only had 1 Kentucky Derby starter. It was last year, was endlessly. He ran 9th, but he does have a couple of Breeders' Cup wins, and he did win in Preakness a few years ago with Rombauer. That was 2021.
He's an excellent trainer. He seems to be getting better and better with each and every year. Endlessly was a turf horse, a synthetic horse, got into the Kentucky Derby last year with his victory in the Jeff Ruby. Don't hold that record against him. It's a very small sample.
It's interesting, Tony, how these horses get their names. Aaron Wellman of Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, a former editor of his high school newspaper. Mopatism is the dam. He comes up with the name Journalism for this racehorse, and he might write his own story, and it might have a happy ending to it on the first Saturday in May.
He deserves the top billing 15 days out. We shall see how he looks when he gets here. So far, he has been perfect.
He's been perfect recently. He's not undefeated, though, but Kentucky Oaks winner, potential winner, definite favorite. Good cheer here for her. She is a perfect 6 for 6 in her career. And we're going to talk about the gals on the road to the Kentucky Oaks right after this.
Place your bets with Twin Spires Handicapping Insights, our expert picks, or just by choosing a name that catches your eye. No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. Get your money back if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd in eligible races.
Like the Kentucky Derby, Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
Welcome back to the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by Twin Spires. We're about 12 minutes away from the designated training time for the Derby and Oaks contenders. And again, as you can see, a beautiful morning here in Louisville. Temperature in the upper 60s, and we have a fast main track to work with. The Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve. It's the Longines Kentucky Oaks for the 3-year-old fillies, Tony, and it's been an interesting road to the Oaks so far with good cheer. We know her here from Churchill Downs already. She went to Fairgrounds. She's never lost a horse race. She's a perfect 6 for 6. It seems to be her and everybody else, but this is a betting game. I'm going to look to try to beat her.
Yeah, there are others. I mean, both those gals that ran in the fantasy were awesome that particular day. They both have a lot of upside. You know, the next 15 days just isn't about the boys. It's about the girls as well. And last year's Kentucky Oaks champion turned out to be the 2024 Horse of the Year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thor, Pito, Anna. Let's take a look at the Oaks leaderboard as it stands now, and a Good Cheer, a perfect 6 for 6, the Godolphin homebred, and she is not number one on the points list, though. It is Quiet Side with 168 points. Good Cheer for Brad Cox sitting in third. You scouted out Lacara way back last fall at Churchill Downs, Tony, and she hasn't disappointed you. She's been good leading up to the Oaks.
Yeah, she was really good in the Ashland. We'll see how she fares in the Kentucky Oaks. She did get the lead to herself in the Ashland. I don't see it being that way in the Oaks. The runner-up of the Ashland really impressed me. Take Charge Milady.
Whit Beckman's got a couple of horses on the list, and Simply Joking and Drexel Hill. They were out earlier this morning. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but I mentioned trying to beat Good Cheer from a pari-mutuel perspective, and a horse that I'm very interested in is this gal, Tony. It's Quiet Side, the winner of the Fantasy, and this was basically a match race from go to woe. Simply Joking, who I followed all winter at the fairgrounds, Whit Beckman very high on her. She loses nothing in defeat here. She just gets bested by a horse that was a little bit better in Quiet Side.
Yeah, Quiet Side and Simply Joking, they put on a show for us in the Fantasy. What a horse race. They're shoulder to shoulder in deep stretch. Both of them showing a strong will to succeed. Quiet Side just getting the better of her in the concluding stages. You know, Quiet Side ran some big races early on in her career to the 2-year-old champion filly Immersive.
What I like about her is her tactical speed. She's going to be in fantastic position. Now, Good Cheer has won 6 races, and she's done it in different ways. Her first few starts, Tony, she had trouble getting out of the starting gate. She's undefeated. She won the Rachel Alexandra, and right here, seen winning the Fairgrounds Oaks.
I was very impressed with this recent race. I didn't think the flow was that fast early, and she still came and just ran them off their feet. She just puts in a big final furlong. She has done nothing wrong. She definitely deserves to be the favorite, but as you mentioned, we're gamblers and we're not chalk-eating weasels, so we're always looking to try to come up with something. And in these big races, you know, 3-year-olds improve so quickly in the month of April. So Good Cheer has been the best of her class so far. Others still have room to improve. Not that she doesn't.
She's won 3 races at Churchill by a combined 25 lengths.
She's awesome. 6 for 6, fans.
A horse that is yet to run at Churchill Downs. She's been based in Southern California for Bob Baffert is Tenma. She was number 1 on my Oaks list prior to the Santa Anita Oaks, Tony, but she had to work for this one, and the speed figures came back very slow.
Yeah, the speed figures weren't favorable for Tenma. You know, you can see it. She's just grinding her way to the wire. The one thing I will say, it was her first race since early February, and I like the way she is at least hitting the wire with interest. I think there's more in the tank. It didn't look like she was all geared up for her best run. And like Good Cheer, she has done not much wrong. 6 starts have resulted in 5 wins and 1 third-place finish. She's the best filly from the West.
I love the way she won the Las Virgenes. I mean, she did it with plenty left in the tank, and you make a good point about, you know, not wanting to empty the tank before the Kentucky Oaks. She should take a step forward, and a horse that'll probably be a better price than we'd have gotten on her if they had run her in the Oaks right after the Las Virgenes and that impressive performance.
You know, Santa Anita's a tricky track compared to what it was when I was growing up. It seems to be more of a slower track that requires a lot of fitness and foundation. It's not like the yesteryear Santa Anita where they used to just run real fast times. So I bet she got a lot out of it, and she has a lot of room to improve.
Lots of great ways to play races like the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. Of course, live here at Churchill Downs or simulcast outlets. And of course, our betting partner at Twin Spires, and they are big in the tournament game. And we've got a huge tournament coming up, the first ever Kentucky Derby betting challenge. Now that tournament costs $5,000 to get in, but you can earn your way in. I think about 50 or 60 people have already earned their way into this tournament, and there are some qualifiers coming up, including one tomorrow, April the 19th, featuring the races at Keeneland. We've got one opening night at Churchill Downs, a qualifier for the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge, another one May 1st, 2nd, and then the big tournament, Tony, $5,000 entry fee, Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge. A lot is on the line. $250,000 at least in the prize pool. Entries into the 2025 Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, entries into next year's Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge and National Handicapping Championship, and tickets to next year's Derby.
Oh my goodness, look at this. We can't get in it though, can we?
We are not eligible.
Come
no.
on, man.
I know. We are not eligible. Unfortunate for us, but fortunate for everybody out there, because we're all planning on having a big Kentucky Derby day and Kentucky Derby week during the course of the lead up. As you can see, the renovation break is in full force as we get ready for the designated training time for the Oaks and Derby horses, which will happen about 5 minutes from now. So this is a good time to take a short break.
As they head to the back stretch, it's a tight pack.
He's going to pull ahead. The Twin Spires expert picks were all optimistic.
You've got the best speed rating in the field. Don't fail me now.
Man, I love this horse's name.
And from far behind, here comes Drake. It's neck and neck. Drake is winning. Drake wins.
No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
We are back on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by Twin Spires. We are just moments away from the designated training period. As Caitlin Free has mentioned, the highlighter yellow saddle towels for the Kentucky Derby horses, and of course, the traditional pink for the Kentucky Oaks horses, making them easy to identify. They're going to stretch their legs, the horses that are on the grounds, here in just a few moments. Joe Christopher and Tony Kalo joining you. And Tony, you know, you do the pedigree work, you watch all these replays, you gamble on a lot of these races. A lot of that kind of legwork is done. Now it's important to see how these horses are handling, you know, Churchill Downs, the atmosphere, the racetrack, the works, and just really get a feel for how they're doing leading into the big races coming up in a couple of weeks.
Well, that's where we're going to lean on Kevin Kilroy and Caitlin Free. They both have very good eyes for that sort of stuff. I'm a good paper player. I can look at a horse physically, but they have Caitlin's really, really good at that. That's for sure.
You see Admire Daytona, one of the Japanese representatives about to come on to the racetrack. He was supposed to work yesterday. We're going to get more information on what happened yesterday from Caitlin Free in just a moment. I want to bring Kevin Kilroy back on. We'll bring Caitlin on in a moment here. But Kevin, you definitely gravitate not only to handicapping the races on paper, what you see visually in the afternoons during the course of the actual races, but also what you see in the mornings. What are you going to be looking for over the course of the next several days and a couple of weeks?
Yeah, guys, this is my favorite part about handicapping, is watching them in the mornings. It's just not only peaceful, amazing time to be at the track, but it's a place where you can find an edge, right? Everybody's got the paper in front of them. Everybody's sort of got the PPs, and they can lean on that. You can watch the replays, you can find them. But doing the extra work, getting up early, watching this work show, this type of thing can give you that advantage to find the horse that maybe will offer some value in the morning. So I'm going to be looking for energy from these horses. Also going to be looking to see how the trainers are asking them to get the distance, that 1 mile and 1/4. We saw Mage be asked for long gallops, building his run throughout a couple of years back when he got the win. So that sort of thing is what I'm going to keep my eyes on. Caitlin, what about you on the backside? I know you like to get that steam, like to get the scoop from the people who are in the know.
Well, Kevin, we are absolutely cut from the same cloth when it comes to steam and stuff like that. I'm getting a good look just over my shoulder here into the Lucas Gap. Admire Daytona is getting ready to go onto the track, and I believe he is going to be scheduled to put in some type of a work. I believe that was something that was potentially scheduled yesterday. He ended up being up to a little bit of mischief on the track. He was kind of very, very vocal. He ended up galloping instead of working. So I believe that we are going to see a workout here from Admire Daytona, the Japanese training style, is a little bit unconventional compared to maybe some of the American training styles. Sometimes they're going to circle over here in the chute. So we'll keep an eye on what Admire Daytona is going to plan on doing. But I do believe we do have a work scheduled for him. He's going to be one of the only potential workers coming up here during this potential training hour for the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks starters. So he is over here in the Lucas Gap at the moment. So we're going to be seeing him ever so shortly coming out, but I'm definitely going to catch up with Kate Hunter following his training, get some notes for her, and I'll be able to relay that information back in the morning.
All right, taking a look, and Caitlin, if your mic is still open, you're following these international horses regularly. We'll talk a lot more about Luxor Cafe moving forward, but Admire Daytona was the winner of the UAE Derby in the most recent start, and we'll get Tony's viewpoint first, and then we'll go to Caitlin about these Japanese invaders. We saw it last year with Forever Young. He just missed in the Kentucky Derby. They're getting better and better with these kinds of dirt horses, not only running at Churchill Downs in the Kentucky Derby, but also in Breeders' Cup events and races all over the world, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, etc. What are your thoughts on Admire Daytona and maybe even a little bit more of Luxor Cafe? They're a little bit tougher for us to handicap than our American horses.
Yeah, I don't specialize in the international scene. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that, hey, I know a lot about it. I lean on Caitlin for this. I have dismissed a lot of the Japanese horses in the past. Like you said, they've been making a bigger impact on the international scene throughout the last couple of years. And the way Forever Young almost won the race last year, that really made me start thinking, I better get my game up. I thought Luxor Cafe, his turn of foot looked incredible. I like him a little better than Admire Daytona.
This is a horse that you're familiar with, Tony. Flying Mohawk. He was the runner-up last out in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. And to me, I've seen him run on turf. I love his turn of foot on turf. They earned enough points with 50 to get into the Kentucky Derby. It's every owner and trainer's dream to run in the Kentucky Derby. But we're going to see this horse winning a lot of graded stakes on the grass, I think, down the road.
I would agree with that. He ran well in defeat in the Jeff Ruby. It was his first start since late January. I heard something that I thought was pretty interesting. Whit Beckman, I saw an interview, and I can't remember who was interviewing him. He said he was hoping for a tremendous amount of rain on the first Saturday in May, and that would maybe make it a little interesting. Then you might want to look at Flying Mohawk a little different, because I always feel that turf horses excel on wet racetracks, and if that's the case, if it's raining on May 3rd, watch out for Flying Mohawk a little bit.
Tony, recognize this filly. She's one of your favorites. This is La Cara, who, really ran well in Kentucky as a 2-year-old, and she's continued on very nicely at age 3.
Yeah, I loved her in her second career start, and she got beat by a very talented filly from Brad Cox's barn, Eclatant. She disappointed in her subsequent start, but then she came back and put it all together, winning by an authoritative 8 lengths, graduating at Saratoga. I really like it when 2-year-olds are able to graduate at Saratoga. I picked her in the Pocahontas. She ran well. She didn't run too well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but she's been pretty good as a 3-year-old, and she really was sensational on the 7th of April in the Ashland.
She really was. And she was second two back in the Devona Dale, but that was a 1-turn mile. I think she's a legitimate forward 2-turn horse.
Right.
We always talk every year about horses that are going to get bet down. This is the horse that's going to get bet down in the Kentucky Derby because of the name and because of the fact that he's a gray. We're talking about Sandman. One of his owners is a major influencer on social media as well. And yes, this horse was named for the Metallica song Enter Sandman in honor of Hall of Fame closer Mariano Rivera. That was his entrance song. And no better entrance song for this big gray who certainly has more than put himself on the Kentucky Derby roadmap.
8 starts. I believe it's the second most starts of all the 3-year-olds. American Promise has the most, 9. You would expect that from Dwayne Lucas. Sandman was the hype horse before his debut in late June. He's a $1.2 million purchase. He's by tapping out of a distorted humor mare. He was the hype. We all heard he was the next coming. He disappointed on debut. He looked good winning at Saratoga. You know, he's been a little quirky in some of his starts. He finally breaks through in the Arkansas Derby, but that was such a favorable flow. He was supposed to win that race because they went so fast early. And he was a legitimate closer, and he got first run on Publisher, who still is a maiden. Sandman, he's got to prove it to me. I'm not sold yet on him.
Speaking of Publisher, and it's an interesting storyline, and Steve Asmussen has been quoted as saying, you know, we talk about Steve, he's won more races than anybody, he hasn't won a Kentucky Derby yet. He's a Kentucky Derby maiden. Publisher is a maiden, period. He has not won a horse race yet, but he was second in the Arkansas Derby. And in addition to that, not only a Publisher, but also the winner of the Louisiana Derby at the fairgrounds, Tistastic. Those are the two representatives from the Steve Asmussen barn.
You know, it's pretty cool. You earn 50 points, runner-up in the Arkansas Derby, and you can get yourself into the Kentucky Derby, even though you have never won a race before. He is another one of many that like to come from far, far back. He is hoping for a furious pace like he got in the Arkansas Derby. Once again, the flow was favorable for Sandman and Publisher. So even though they both look good winning, and Sandman was a little green through the lane, so he still has a lot of room to improve.
He got lost. Yeah.
He did get lost.
He wants to target that horse.
He probably does want to target,
Yeah.
but at least he finally got to the winner's circle. But what I'm getting at here is the flow was so good for the closers. For me, it's hard to get excited. I like to see horses run well when it's up against them. Both Sandman and Publisher ran well when things were in their favor.
Yeah, no, and we've seen, you know, Kentucky Derbies in recent years with fast paces and, you know, off the pace sort of scenarios. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it all develops. We also don't have in this year's Derby an absolute runoff horse like we've had in years past.
No, we don't. And that's the beautiful thing about the point system versus the way the graded earnings used to work once upon a time when I was growing up. You would get a lot of sprinters that had earned money in less significant, shorter races. And so then they would absolutely go fast early and they never had a chance to win. The point standings has really brought it all together. But we do have a legitimate amount of pace. We have Bob Baffert back in the Kentucky Derby. Bob likes to have his horses forwardly positioned. He has 3 of them that want to be near the lead. East Avenue has only shown one dimension. He has never shown he can pass a horse. He wants to be near the lead. We could even throw in Owen Almighty amongst that. You have to anticipate that the pace is going to be absolutely furious in this year's Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and it's the Derby. And some of the
the
riders
Derby.
panic, and, you know, we're going to have it work here. Take charge, milady. What a dream year it was in 2024 for Ken McPeek and Brian Hernandez Jr. winning the Kentucky Oaks with Torpedo Anna. And this one is trained by Kenny and ridden by Brian at Take Charge Milady, who's very legitimate in her own right. That wasn't enough, Tony. They came back and won the Kentucky Derby the very next day with a picture-perfect Brian Hernandez ride aboard Mystic Dan in one of the most thrilling Kentucky Derbies of all time.
Incredible year for Kenny McPeek and Brian Hernandez. Here's Take Charge Milady. I was very impressed with her final furlong in the Ashland. She was the one that caught my attention. I know La Cara is my girl. I've been loyal to her. But Take Charge Milady was the one that I said going out of that race, she's the one I want to keep an eye on. I want to see how she handles herself in the next 15 days leading up to it.
Want to bring Kevin Kilroy back in if we can, because Kevin has an intimate knowledge of East Avenue, having watched the horse train, having watched the horse run in the Risen Star with that clunker, and then came back and really ran well last time out with the blinkers on in the Bluegrass. Ran his heart out, got beat by a nose by Burnham Square. Kevin, what are your overall impressions of East Avenue in his development and the recent start in the Bluegrass?
Yeah, listen, nobody's more impressive in the flesh than East Avenue, right? He's just a very, very, very strong, classy individual who, you know, there's question marks around him, right? But he doesn't have the blinkers on right now. He looked very good in the Bluegrass, able to get the lead. That's how we've seen him do his best running. The question has to be, can he pass, right? The works that we saw from him over the fairgrounds, over the winter at fairgrounds, were designed for him to get by company, and he would do it on his own. So that's the big question mark. He's definitely proven it in the mornings that he knows how to get by other horses without even being asked by his rider. He's got that within him. We just not see it in his races. So that's something that we want to keep in mind as we're watching him. He's going to look good. He's going to look fantastic. How does Brendan Walsh design the works leading up to it? Does he put him in company? Does he put him behind others? That's one of the big questions with East Avenue.
Good point, Kevin, as we take a look at Admire Daytona, who again, as Caitlin Freya alluded to, was supposed to have a breeze yesterday. That went awry. He pretty much just refused to work. We'll see if he wakes up on the right side of the hay this morning. Here's Take Charge Milady, who is scheduled to breeze here. It was reported Kevin Kilroy moments ago that Take Charge Milady, I believe, is supposed to go 5/8 here today. And if we can bring Kevin back in, Kevin, is that Brian? Is it Brian Hernandez aboard? No, it does not look like him.
Is that Take Charge? I heard that Brian was going to be up, but I cannot tell if that is him.
Take Charge Milady, scheduled to go 5/8, and she's had kind of an up and down, interesting Kentucky Oaks road. Not necessarily by her own doing, though, Tony. She had some trouble in some of her races, but she's looked good visually, and we mentioned it in her most recent start. Quiet Side, Simply Joking. They were 1-2 in the fantasy, but this is a horse that has not only been in Arkansas, but she's shown that she doesn't have to leave her game where she's stabled. We're going to go through this workout here, and we'll bring Kevin Kilroy back in to take us through it. Kevin?
Yes, we've got Take Charge Milady outside Gowell's Delight, and just setting up right behind. This is common what we'll see, especially with a horse that comes from off. We've got the lead horse setting the tone, setting the pace. You want to see them together. Not get too far away from each other. That's ideal. So right now we can see ears pricked back for Take Charge. Nobody's moving. Very, very quiet ride so far. In hand. Coming around the turn here at the quarter pole, past the quarter pole. We can see Brian's maybe just kind of urging a little bit with his hands. You can see just kind of lifting up, and we can see Take Charge Milady trying to get up and get even. And this is what you want to see. You want to see her with not much asking, not much urging, really just build a rhythm at the wire. They're even, and they're going through. They're still moving. I'm guessing this is going 5. As we're even through the turn, now we can see standing up a little bit, slowing down, but still keeping even there. Yeah, this is solid to see. Not asking too much. Be fun to see the time on this and see how sharp they're going. The quickest time we saw so far from the morning works was 48.6, 48-3 from One Cool Dude, Tony. One Cool Dude on the track this morning. Love to see that. So great to see Take Charge Milady handle her business, not need any reminders, responding very well to the rider, and both of them, Gowell's Delight and Take Charge Milady, moving quite nicely.
And that was Robbie Alvarado aboard Gowell's Delight, who does a lot of the morning work for trainer Ken McPeak. A highly successful rider, obviously, in his own right during his career as a jockey. And we'll get those split times. We'll get all the information on the final work here for Take Charge Milady and Gowell's Delight. It was a good move for both.
I thought it was, and I thought it was a very good move for Take Charge Milady. She was a length back getting to the quarter pole. Brian really never asked her. She knows where the wire is. She put her nose down in time, did everything nicely. She's already defeated Quiet Side in her career. I'm going to have to go back and watch the Honeybee and see what really happened there, but it looks like the running line, she had all sorts of trouble. Yeah, she did.
Let's bring Caitlin Free back in. Here's Admire Daytona. Caitlin, we talked earlier about his refusal to breeze yesterday. We'll see what he does today. But what is your overall assessment of this horse and what he's done so far?
He's a very interesting horse, and I think he's maybe not getting quite the recognition maybe that he deserves. I posted a video on X last night. It was the maiden breaker that Luxor Cafe had. Admire Daytona was second to him by a nose in that race, so it's definitely something you should go back and watch. I'll see if we're maybe able to get the rights to it and something that we can show at some point, but they were about 12 lengths clear of everyone else. And Admire Daytona has quite a bit of early speed, but he's not a horse that necessarily needs the lead, so I think he's going to be one that's probably going to be in a pressing type of a position in a race like the Kentucky Derby, maybe kind of in that up close second type of a flight in a race. But of course, Forever Young has been the most successful UAA Derby winner to come over here, missed just by half a head last year behind Mystic Dan, finishing third in that race, arguably the best horse in the field. But Admire Daytona's coming into this race a little bit under the radar, and I know there's definitely going to be question marks maybe about his pedigree when it comes to getting the distance. He is by by Breeders' Cup Sprint winner Drafong. His dam is by Preakness winner Shackelford, so almost a totally American pedigree, really similar to Derma Sotogake, who ran here a couple of years ago, was by Mind Your Biscuits. And despite being a sprinter, the progeny by Drafong, I will say, in the last couple of years have done well with distance. He's had a son that was second in the Grade 1 Melbourne Cup. That's a 2-mile race. He produced Geoglyph, who ended up winning the Japanese 2,000 guineas. Is the same distance as the Kentucky Derby, but admire Daytona. He's been a little feisty when he's been out in the mornings, but no problem. The 1.25 miles, I think, is going to be right up his alley.
Yeah, guys, he reminds me of Derma Sotogake in terms of that energy, that wildness to him. It's almost like he's talking to himself when he's making his way around the track, which I love to see. I love how the Japanese really allow the thoroughbred their madness, their mind, and he just kind of is making his noises and doing his thing. So it's good to see him bring that energy, and we'll see how it translates throughout the next 2 weeks.
Kevin, I want to talk to you about Tistastic, because this is another horse that you got to see train a lot over the winter at fairgrounds. And I remember on several occasions you telling me how well this horse had been training, but it never really translated to the afternoon until the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, so he outworked Magnitude ahead of Magnitude's big run to win the Risen Star, and that was the work that showed me that Tistastic really had it. I mean, it was talking, hearing Steve talk about Tistastic, he really loved fairgrounds. He was track specific. Oaklawn Park wasn't suiting him. He got over and finally raced with us in the Louisiana Derby, and he put it together in a big way. So he's been working in company a lot with Publisher. That's what we saw again here. It did seem like when they are together that Publisher is maybe moving just a little bit better than Tistastic, or just sort of dominating a little bit more the alpha in their works. Tistastic was with the pony a good amount of time here this morning. Scott Blasi up on the pony earlier, and he's really well composed. Yesterday he seemed to have a ton of energy, a little bit of wildness to him. He's well composed here today doing his thing. I think they wanted to make sure he was calm as they let him around the track a little bit longer. They let Publisher loose earlier. So Tistastic is one definitely will tout himself in the morning when he's ready to fire his best shot.
Tistastic, winner of the Louisiana Derby, has run at Churchill Downs a couple of times in the Street Sense second, Kentucky Jockey Club third, and just got some information coming in from Kevin Kirstein in regards to Admire Daytona yesterday. He did not refuse to breeze. The Connections just sort of changed their mind at the last moment, and he's probably going to only have one serious breeze before the Derby and two slower ones. Now, how all that's going to play out moving forward, and again, I wasn't here. I was just going by what I had heard in regards to what happened yesterday. So again, some clarification on Admire Daytona, and we'll see what he does here this morning and moving forward in his preparations for the Kentucky Derby as you take a look at Tistastic. And, he defeated Chunk of Gold. He defeated Instant Replay. That was a race of Louisiana Derby, Tony, that had very much had an off-the-pace flow to it as well. Like, quite frankly, a lot of these prep races have. They went 46-4 to the opening half mile in Louisiana Derby. Not necessarily sure it was the strongest edition of that race, but at the same time, he's intriguing. It's Steve Asmussen. Horse seems to be improving, and he seems to be feeling really good this morning.
He's a good looker, that's for sure. Big, strong horse. I thought he had a lot of trouble in the Rebel. He was making a similar move to Cole Battle heading into the turn, and he had a lot of his momentum stalled. I remember I was high on him coming out of the Rebel. I told some friends. He validated that per what I saw with a big run in the Louisiana Derby. I find him intriguing. He's one on turf, and I think 1.25 miles is easily within his game.
The designated training hours starting to wind down here under the Twin Spires of Churchill Downs. And we like for these horses, the Oaks and Derby horses, to train during that designated time. But a lot of them go to the racetrack earlier in the morning. And we had a few of those earlier that we're going to take a look at momentarily. But we've got the splits on Take Charge Milady, 11 3/5, 23 2/5, 35 and 2/5, 47 and 2/5, 59 and 2/5, out 112 and 3 and 126 and 4 for 7 furlongs, in company with Go Well's Delight. The major work this morning here on the workout show, and both horses worked well. I thought Go Well's Delight held herself up well with Take Charge of Milady, although her stablemate has maybe a little bit better overall resume.
Yeah, better overall resume. She looked to be a bigger filly, so she spotted the other gal a length, was able to make up the ground, but both worked very nice.
Yeah. Talked about the road to the Kentucky Derby that came through Fairgrounds and Louisiana. We're going to take a look at Built right now, and this is a horse that won the Gun Runner in impressive fashion to start his road to the Kentucky Derby as a late season 2-year-old, and then he ran a really good second in his subsequent start in the Lecomte Stakes. The Risen Star, distant third, but Magnitude ran the fastest race of any 3-year-old up until this point. In that particular event, Magnitude off the Kentucky Derby trail. It was that 5th in the Louisiana Derby where he had first run, could not seal the deal. In fact, ran a fading 5th that day with the blinkers on. Tony, there's just been a lot going on with this horse, and I'm really, really skeptical about the 1.25 miles for him.
I would agree with that, and I'm also skeptical that I get leery when 3-year-olds have success early, and that was the case here with Built. He wins the Gun Runner. He runs a bang-up second in the Lecomte. His 2 races since in the Risen Star and Louisiana Derby are pale in comparison to early on. He seems to be going in the wrong direction, and as you mentioned, some question marks with the distance.
One of the best stories in this year's Kentucky Derby is Coal Battle, the first Kentucky Derby mount for jockey Juan Vargas, and the first Kentucky Derby starter for 72-year-old trainer Lonnie Briley. The Rebel Stakes was his first graded stakes start, let alone win. He got the job done with Coal Battle. And let's bring Kevin Kilroy back on. Kevin, Coal Battle is a horse that has won 5 races already. To say the horse and the connection are old school would be an understatement.
Definitely. I mean, Lonnie Briley, Louisiana-based trainer, just one of the best, one of those hands-on trainers who, got that first graded stake win with this horse. Now, Coal Battle, he's proven himself forward. He's proven himself from off of it. He tends to just sort of do his thing. You often hear Lonnie refer to him as that a little horse, a little guy, and he's not only little in terms of coming from a smaller barn, coming from a sort of underdog position, but maybe just a little bit slight, and distance is a question for him. He worked earlier in the week. I thought that, I didn't love the move from Coal Battle. He's one that I'm getting to know, not as familiar with him, having been at Oaklawn Park, but seemed to need a little bit of urging or reminders to stay straight as he was getting in the stretch. So Coal Battle looking good, up to his business with the draw reins, staying focused here on the track this morning.
In the game of chess, Gambit is a calculated risk, and running Final Gambit in the Kentucky Derby is exactly that, a horse that has never run on the dirt. I know Caitlin Free has some opinions on Final Gambit, so if we can bring her back in, the winner of the Jeff Ruby Stakes, last to first, last out, but 4 of the 11 winners that particular day came from way off the pace, and he was one of them. Caitlin, this horse has never run on dirt. We take a look at how he's handling the dirt surface earlier this morning.
Well, thank you, Joe. He hasn't ever ran on the dirt, but he's a horse that is bred to handle the dirt. He is, by not this time, out of a Tappet mare. We have a number of horses in this field that are out of Tappet mares. So I would say that's pedigree. That's pretty much what you would call all-purpose, whether it be turf, all-weather, or dirt. So it definitely is, like you said, a gamble to run him over the dirt. But as what I've seen over the past few mornings, he's been a horse that has really kind of floated over this track. I think maybe the thing with Final Gambit was not necessarily necessarily a preference for the surface, was maybe needing to just grow up a little bit more mentally. He's a horse that's progressed on very, very nicely. He's certainly going to be a horse at the 1.25 miles. Will be no problem. His last 2 races that he ran at Turfway Park were very, very impressive. When he made his first start at Turfway, ended up finishing second. He was chasing an incredibly slow pace on a day where it seemed to be a pretty speed favoring type of a surface. He's been a horse that when Luan Machado got aboard, and he ended up taking him back off the pace, it fared out way better for him. So 2 for 2 coming from off the pace, but that performance in the Jeff Ruby Stakes was something. He ended up blowing that field away. So if he takes to the dirt, he has the potential to be a problem here in this year's Derby.
Take a look at another Kentucky Oaks contender in Simply Joking. We mentioned her running a game second in the Fantasy at Oaklawn. And Tony, she won the Letelier sprinting at Fairgrounds as a maiden. Then came back and won the Silver Bullet Day Gate to Wire. Looked like she got a little bit lost on the lead that particular day in the slot, but still won by open lengths. She really showed a lot of heart in the Fantasy, and that was her first race in basically 10 weeks. She's got a chance to take a step forward, a very talented daughter of Practical Joke.
Yeah, very talented. I was very impressed with her runner-up effort, and as you mentioned, that was her first start in about 9 weeks, and she has every right to improve. You know, little leery with Practical Joke, blood up top perhaps, but it's hard not to be enthused by her. I think she's going in the right direction. She's relatively inexperienced and lots of room to improve. Look at the engine on this girl. She has just got a very, very powerful hind end, and she looks very good in this gallop. Very talented, that's for sure. Her and Quiet Side put on a heck of a show, and she reluctantly gave way. She tried her heart out, and she needed that race desperately. She's definitely one of the contenders. I'll be keeping my eye on her throughout the next 2 weeks.
Meyer Daytona did not work today. Kevin Kirstein reporting, just galloped, same as yesterday, backed up to the wire, circled in the chute, and then galloped again. Couple of horses that did work, Kentucky Oaks contenders for Kenny McPeak, who won the race last year with Torpedo Anna. Not sure he's got a Grizzly for this year's Kentucky Oaks, but he's got some nice fillies, including Go Well's Delight on the inside with Robbie Alvarado, and on the outside, Take Charge Milady and Brian Hernandez Jr., and we'll bring Kevin Kilroy back on. Kevin, I don't know if you have any perspective as to how fast the track has been here this morning. That was a pretty quick move that we've seen, not only time-wise, but looked good visually, not only from Take Charge Milady, but I also thought Go Well's Delight. Yeah,
I thought they both worked very well. There was a quick time. I expected fast times today. I saw them blading the track yesterday, so it seems dry and shallow. You know, they did put water down in the break, in the Harrow break. So we'll see how the times, I mean, I think it's not only how fast in terms of, right, we saw sub 48, but just how it compares to the rest of them, right, how that sort of ranks. I thought it was a great time from both, and Gallows Delight would be an interesting part of the pace for sure. It could really help a horse like Take Charge Milady if she's able to draw in. But yeah, I think Tony mentioned it. She knew where the wire was. She got up for it and not asked for too much on the gallop out. So definitely professional work from both of them.
Earlier this morning, Drexel Hill, another contender for the Kentucky Oaks for Whit Beckman, galloped on the racetrack here at Churchill, and I think very well campaigned has been Drexel Hill, because she looked like she was overmatched to a large extent in the Fairgrounds races. The Untappable, distant fifth, ran third behind her stablemate in the Silver Bullet Day, and then went to New York, Tony, and won the Busher, earning more than enough points to get into the Kentucky Oaks. But to me, I've seen her against those tougher fillies. Needs to step up her game a little bit, but Whit Beckman has really emerged on the scene here in the last couple of years. On Marie in the Derby last year. Now he's got a Derby horse and a couple of Oaks horses this year.
I agree with that completely. I've been very impressed with his training, and Drexel Hill, I thought, had a very nice acceleration in the final furlong when winning the Busher Invitational. He has decided not to go with a prep after that. He's had her going steady Eddie works at Turfway Park. I think horses get a lot out of their workouts training over the Tapeta at Turfway Park. We've seen the success that they've had at the Keeneland meet of recency, and what we saw them do last year. It's just they get so much out of it. I think they just build up more and more strength each and every time. So I'm intrigued by her. She's going to have to step her game up. You know, perhaps she needed that start, her first start at Fairgrounds. Then she had a sloppy racetrack in the next start. So there could be some room to improve.
Twin Spires is fast, safe, easy to use. You can play online, you can play on your mobile devices, and not only can you bet the races from all over the country and all over the world, they're now very prominent in the tournament game, and this is the remaining Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge qualifying schedule, Tony. Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge, as you can see there's a lot on the line, $250,000. We're not eligible to play, but the tournament world in horse racing has gotten bigger and bigger over the years, and now the Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge is right there with the BCBC and the NHC.
This is a great tournament. If you have a chance, you should try to qualify. Lots and lots up for grabs, lots of money, all those seats that are available. And if you're not that familiar with the tournament styles, it's a great deal. I equate it to like a pick six. When you see your Will Pays, it's a rush. When you see your name climb up the leaderboard, it is a tremendous rush in these tournaments.
All right, the designated training time has ended for the Oaks and Derby contenders. And Tony, Kayla, we are just getting started, man. This is like easing our way in because it's going to get nuts tomorrow. A lot of expected workers on the Saturday tab.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Can't wait for it.
Kevin Kilroy up atop the fourth floor area there, looking down on the Oaks and Derby horses training here this morning. We saw that work from the McPeak Oaks duo. Kevin, anything else catch your eye? You got a final thought for us?
Yeah, I thought that was a fantastic work from the McPeak duo, especially with one more final prep in between now and that first Friday in May. So don't sleep on Take Charge Milady. I think she seems very dangerous in there. I love the Beckman trio. I thought was very impressive. I thought they were moving quite well. Simply Joking, Drexel Hill, and Flying Mohawk was building throughout that work. So I thought that was fantastic. That was my view from up here on Millionaires Row. What about you, Caitlin? What were you seeing? What was your final thoughts?
I got a good look at a lot of contenders that came here through the Lucas Gap. I do want to further clarify things just a little bit more on Admire Daytona. The riders on these Japanese horses, as I mentioned, their training styles are just a little bit more unconventional than what we have. They've got the right and the power to change their minds on these horses. So this horse looks like he's going to have one really serious bullet type of a breeze, then have a few more slower types of breezes, going to do some gate schooling. But he backed up to the wire, circled in the chute, and just galloped today. That's pretty much what he did yesterday. I will say he was on much better behavior today. Seemed a little bit more settled. So I'm going to catch up with Kate Hunter again, maybe provide a little bit more information tomorrow about Admire Daytona, what we can expect also from Luxor Cafe, but a very good morning out here to start the morning work show. Really looking forward to the rest of what we got coming up in the next few days.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. And Tony, final thought from you. I mean, we just got to see the one work today. We got to see some horses gallop. A lot of horses still yet to find themselves under the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs. So we're just getting started, like I said.
Yeah, we are. Tomorrow's going to be very interesting, and we're going to get closer and closer, and it's going to get more hectic and hectic, that's for sure. It happens quickly. We have to decipher what we see and try to give it to you the best that we're seeing it. It's not easy, I can say that. It's a little difficult with the training when that starts happening.
Yeah, no doubt about it for sure. Kenny McPeak's duo, Go Well's Delight on the inside, Take Charge Milady on the outside, both trained well this morning. I thought Go Well's Delight held up well.
I agree.
Against Take Charge Milady, who on paper looks like the better horse. Go Well's Delight is, as has Take Charge Milady, have both shown a little bit of versatility during the course of their careers to this point. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Kentucky Derby morning workout show for today, but fasten your seatbelts, get your popcorn ready, whatever you need to do to prepare. Make an extra pot of coffee for tomorrow because the action is going to be fast and furious on the Kentucky Derby morning workout show presented by Twin Spires.